Well, good evening. My dears, I'm back. I'm live, but just barely, because though I seldom regret not having air conditioning, this weather is something else. However, just tonight and one more day, and the temperature should get a lot friendlier. Excuse me, this is difficult. I'm going to be fine. Anyway, I had a nice long story plan for tonight, but I think we save that until next week. And instead, I have two short pieces for my musician friends and everybody else, because they're delightful pieces. The first is by Charles Reade, and it's entitled A Thomas Beecham Tale. Sammons was the first leader to enjoy Beecham's characteristic asides and confidences from the rostrum in mid-performance. Some of these were revealing. During a Diaghilev ballet season, Beecham was called to the rostrum unexpectedly because all other available conductors were sick. The program included, among other people, the Talapsian dances from Prince Igor. Did he wish for a rehearsal with the dancers? Inquired the management. Not at all, drawled Beecham benevolently. On the night, at a point usually taken to in a bar, he suddenly let fly to the general consternation with a one in the bar beat, which had the dancers winded after a couple of pages. Too fast, they gasped every time they came within earshot of the rostrum. Beecham's face remained ironic and inflexible. At the end, he leaned down to Sammons and said, "We made the bastards hop, what?" Charles Reade, A Thomas Beecham Tale. And then this is for all my pianist friends and acquaintances. All of you. Can I say it will strike a chord? I think possibly. It's entitled An Evening with Bach, and it's by Kenneth Langbell. The recital last evening in the chamber music room of the Erewhon Hotel by U.S. pianist Myron Kropp can only be described by this reviewer as one of the most interesting experiences in a very long time. Mr. Kropp had chosen the title, An Evening with Bach. The evening opened with the toccata and fugue in D minor. As I have mentioned on several other occasions, the Baldwin Concerto Grand needs constant attentions. In this humidity, the felts tend to swell, causing the occasional key to stick, which apparently was the case last evening with the D in the second octave. Some who attended the performance later questioned whether the awkward key justified some of the language which was heard coming from the stage during softer passages of the fugue. However, one member of the audience, who had sent his children out of the room by the midway point, commented that the workman who greased the stool might have done better to use some of the grease on the second octave D key. Indeed, Mr. Kropp's stool had more than enough grease, and during one passage in which the music was particularly violent, he was turned completely around. Whereas before his remarks had been largely aimed at the piano and were therefore somewhat muted, to his surprise and that of those in the chamber music room, he found himself addressing himself directly to the audience. By the time the audience had regained its composure, Mr. Kropp appeared to be somewhat shaken. Nevertheless, he swiveled himself back into position and, leaving the fugue unfinished, commenced on the fantasia and fugue in G minor. Why the G in the third octave chose that particular time to begin sticking, I hesitate to guess. However, Mr. Kropp himself did nothing to help matters when he began using his feet to kick the lower portion of the piano instead of operate the pedals. Possibly it was this jarring or the un-Bach-like hammering to which the sticking keyboard was being subjected. Something caused the right front leg of the piano to buckle slightly forward, leaving the entire instrument listing at approximately a 35-degree angle. A gasp went up from the audience, for if the piano had actually fallen, several of Mr. Kropp's toes, if not both his feet, would surely have been broken. It was with a sigh of relief, therefore, that the audience saw Mr. Kropp slowly rise from his stool and leave the stage. A few men in the back of the room began clapping, and when Mr. Kropp reappeared a moment later, it seemed he was responding to the ovation. Apparently, however, he had left to get the red-handled fire axe, which was hung backstage in case of fire, for when he returned, that was what he had in his hand. My first reaction at seeing Mr. Kropp begin to chop at the left leg of the grand piano was that he was attempting to make it tilt at the same angle as the right leg. However, when the weakened legs finally collapsed together, all together, with a great crash, and Mr. Kropp continued to chop, it became obvious to all that he had no intention of going on with the concert. The ushers, who had heard the snapping of piano wires and splintering of sounding board from the dining room, came rushing in, and with the help of the hotel manager, 2 Indian watchmen, and a passing police corporal, finally succeeded in disarming Mr. Kropp and dragging him off the stage. Oh, my dears, I'm really having trouble with my voice. So we're going to hold it there. I know it's very, very brief tonight. I promise you I'll make up for it next week, but I'm just not in good shape. So I hope you've enjoyed these 2 little tinies, and I hope they've been fun. I hope to have more voice next week. So dear hearts, thank you so much. That's it for tonight, unfortunately. Good night, my dears. See you next week. Thank you.